Hello and welcome to the National Car Control Centre's Skid Control course. My name's Charlie Butler-Henderson and I'm going to be talking to you about some of the theories behind skid control, which will give you a better understanding and a good idea of what's going to be happening when you're in the car. It's a standard BMW which sits in a hydraulic cradle, and this can simulate any road driving situation, such as black ice, torrential rain or even dry roads. The skid control course is designed to teach you how to control a car and how to cope in hazardous and tricky road situations. A front wheel skid is more likely to happen in a front wheel drive car because the wheels have two jobs to do. They have to change direction and they have to apply the power directly onto the road. I'm now going to show you something called understeer, which is normally known as a front wheel skid. What happens is you go into a corner, normally too fast, or you slip on a bit of greasy surface, and the natural reaction is to turn even more, even though the front's not gripping. So I'll show you that now. So I'm driving along, and all of a sudden I want to turn right. What'll happen is I'll find myself putting more and more and more lock on, all the lock that I've possibly got, and then eventually panicking and stamping on the brakes. This isn't ideal, but it is a regular occurrence. You just naturally want to turn even more because the car's not gripping. I'm now going to rectify understeer, or a front wheel skid. I turn into a corner, I give it loads of lock, I now come off the throttle, straighten the wheel up gradually. That gives the front wheels less to think about. I'm straightening them up, they're gaining traction, and by coming off the throttle, it just makes everything much better. It gives me more grip. A rear wheel skid is more likely to happen in a rear wheel drive car because the power is being applied to the rear wheels. What will happen is the back of the car or the rear of the car will try and overtake the front, and this is known as oversteer. So I've assessed the situation, but there could have been some diesel spilt on the road, so I turn into a corner, the back of the car's come round, and now I'm rolling backwards, completely out of control. Alright, I've ended up quite a long way as well, away from the road where I first started, so not really ideal. I had three options there. Firstly, I could have avoided the situation by assessing the situation better really and driving maybe a little bit slower. Secondly, I could have corrected the slide by looking and steering. The reason why we get you to look and steer, say if the back end of the car is stepped out to my left, I want to steer towards where the back end is going to correct the slide. And if you're looking where you want to steer, you'll end up in the right direction once you've corrected the slide. So this is me showing you how to correct oversteer. I turn into a right-hand bend, all of a sudden slip on a bit of diesel, the back of the car steps out, I lift off the throttle, declutch momentarily to stop the engine braking and the rear wheels locking, and then correct it with the steering and carry on with my journey. And it is actually very satisfying. So let's talk about damage limitation. I'm driving along and all of a sudden I lose control of the car. So I'm turning into a right-hand bend. As I turn, the back of the car steps out. I immediately put my foot on the brake, put my foot on the clutch to keep the engine running. I also keep the steering as still as possible, and by having my foot on the clutch, I've stopped engine braking and I've kept the engine running, and now I can set off on my journey as quickly as possible without any other traffic users hitting me. I'm now going to show you a demonstration with a car without ABS. The law of physics states that any moving object will only want to travel in a straight line. It will not want to change direction. So I'm driving along a fairly built-up area, just minding my own business. 5 kids have just run out in front of me, excited to get to see their friends. I've braked hard, I've turned as best I could, the front of the car has lost traction, hence the law of physics says that it doesn't want to change direction that quickly. I'm now driving a car with ABS. So this will give me the ability to brake and steer, so anti-lock braking. So driving along, same speed, around 20 miles an hour, and as I brake, it allows me to turn and swerve, which is a lot better and a lot safer than a car without ABS. Okay, I'm now going to drive a car without ABS, and I'm the one physically doing the ABS braking. So, something maybe, for example, may step out in front of me, I brake hard, the front wheels lock up, as soon as I come off the brakes, it actually grips, which is amazing. So as soon as I've stopped braking, I'm allowed to turn the wheel, giving me traction to the front wheels to continue then on my brake and avoid. Cadence braking is used by the police and is a very effective way of avoiding an object. It allows you to steer and to brake without locking the front wheels. It's much better than freezing on the brake pedal. Pulse braking is a smoother and more refined version of cadence braking, and you can achieve up to 70% of braking efficiency, but it takes a cool head. Threshold braking is normally used by race drivers and is a very difficult technique to achieve. Most race cars don't have ABS, and the drivers are trying to brake as late as they possibly can without locking up the front tyres. Even Formula 1 drivers find it a challenge. Right then, we're now going to set up a bit of a grand finale for you, just to see how much you've learnt today. So you can put everything into practice and show basically how much car control you've actually got. You're going to be against the clock and you're going to be against your fellow students. So here goes. It's a figure of 8 course, it's good fun, but try and put everything into practice that you've learnt. So we go round, bring the back end out, control it. Trying to keep it as tight as possible as well, that's the aim, is not to get it to lose control too much, because the wider you go, the more time you're wasting using extra bits of tarmac that you don't actually need. So see how we're getting on? Around the next one, so it's quite a good figure of 8. I'm trying to keep it tidy, that's the aim. Trying not to waste time. Nearly at the finish. And stop. Great fun. Okay, that's enough from me. I hope you've benefited from some of the safety tips and the theories behind a skid. It's now your turn to put into practice. Remember, have fun and be safe.